Hello and welcome to my channel. Today's video is about working with this window rough opening. I'm not going to be doing each individual element in this video because at this point you probably should be pretty confident with that. But I'm going to try to show you some of the techniques I used to make this a little bit more flexible and parametric, and how I made it so that you could use this particular model to do any kind of window you like, or many kinds. There's some things I would still like to add to make it even better. But so basically this window is driven from one sketch, and the one sketch is just the rough opening, because that's generally the unknown. And I had this set to a standard one, but I forgot what that was. So you see, if I change it, you'll see that everything moves along with it. So you see these, the cripples moved, the jack stud moved, and the king stud moved. Now these are generally fixed because it just moves from one direction. Someday I'd like to make this just its own object that you could drop into a framed wall, and it would take the place of the appropriate studs, and you can size it right in the framed wall. And I think I might almost know enough to do that. Then I also show how you could drive it from the spreadsheet as well, and how that can be a little bit easier. So there's two ways, and if you wait till the end, I'll show you how I did the sill as an attachment to the sketch, so that you don't even have to click in any formulas. This sill plate just follows the bottom edge of the sketch no matter what you do. So you could do that with a sill, you could do that with a header, so you can do that with pretty much everything. So you don't even have to click in formulas if you don't want to. I like having the formulas because it kind of exposes what's happening, whereas the attachment just kind of happens and you don't know what's going on. But it's also a very good methodology as well. Before we get started, I want to make an announcement that I'm getting started with Patreon. I want to try to make a living off this. I don't know if that's really possible, and I have a feeling this will always be zero. But if you feel like giving me a buck a month or something, right now that's all I have set up. I'll try to set up some one-times as well, but I'm new to Patreon. And then also for the $1 one, I'm going to put all my models on my not GitHub. I need to change that. You can't really do a private thing on GitHub, so I'm just going to put them on my website, mathcodeprint.com, and but I have to figure out how to do that. So, bear with me, and maybe if you do donate, you will get access to the files I make. So, for example, like I just did let's see if I open that real quick. If I just did a model on a pillow block, the STL will be on like Thingiverse. But if you want the FreeCAD file, that's going to be on my page. And, to save you some time, not hard to do. I suggest you follow their tutorial instead, but maybe if you don't want to, you can just get the file. So let's get started. So let's get started by looking at the sketch first that's driving most of this object. If we open the sketch, it's called Rough Opening, and what you'll see is it's basically a fully constrained sketch that is just a square, and that's hiding behind the other. So let's work with this. So what I have here is the square is constrained to the y-axis with this dot on line, or point on line, or whatever you want to call it. And then I have a couple of measurements. I have a height to the top of the sill. I have the height to the bottom of the header. I don't know if those are the correct convention or not, but it works. And then I have the rough opening width. So this is a rough opening width, and this is a rough opening height. So let me show you how you make that a little bit more parametric. If you just have a measurement by itself, it'll be referred to as a constraint. But if you enter a name here, it will be easier to find and use parametrically. So I gave them names like window rough width, window rough height, and sill height. So now let's take a look at where you use those. The first place I want to show you where I use this is in the sill length. So I calculated the length of the sill using the rough opening sketch. So if I go to sill, and you see it says sketch right now because that's the first name it had. But if I type in rough opening, I'm good to go. So if I type rough opening, and then the next word I want to type is constraint, C for constraint. So you have to know a little bit about what things are called. It doesn't help you completely, and that was a big confusion for me at first when I started learning this, is that word constraints. So I'm just going to select rough width from this. And I'll show you why you want to just select it. Because if you don't remember the name, it doesn't help you. So, you have to type out the whole thing. So that's error prone. Yeah, see, I even got it wrong, even though I know it. So I strongly suggest just hitting the C and then picking it. So with the width, you'll see it didn't change at all because it's the same. Let me show you another way to change the value in the sketch. Is if you click the sketch yourself, your constraints are listed here. If you expand this, you get the named constraints listed here, and then you'll get the rest of them in a group. So let's change the rough window width to make it smaller, and you'll see that the sill plate adjusts appropriately. That's because we put the length in here. We can also use it for positioning too. So for example, let's look at the header. So you see right away I have the rough window width plus 6.5. 6.5? Oh, plus 3. So this is a little wider than the rough window opening. So because I have to sit on top of the jack studs on either side, which are an inch and a half each. So you can use the value in Sketch in a formula or in an expression. The other place you can use this, I mean, you can use these wherever you see the f of x, you can use these. So the other place I did use this was setting the height of the header. This is always going to be the same in this simple drawing. Oops, and I just changed something. Let's see if I can undo that. I think it was that, right? Yeah. Okay. So I don't know why it does that. I've seen that before too. So anyway, at any rate, let me show you. So I set the Z in here. And what I've done is, so this is using two values from the sketch to get the height of the header. So I used the sill height, which goes to the top of this line, and then the rough window height to go the rest of the way. And let me show you how that works. I'm not going to show you the first because you kind of already know that. But if you hit plus right here, and even though it says sketch, that's the internal name, I can use what I renamed it to as well. So let's do constraint. Let's see, rough opening, right? So I suggest picking really small names. So there's my rough window height. So even though I say sketch here, I can use rough opening here. You'll see that it's not listed. There's no sketch listed, but that is the internal name, so it will work. And when I click OK, I get my same height, and it hasn't changed. Let me show you how if I change that rough opening height, the header will go up. So if I change the height a little bit, or let's, yeah, oops, I have a mistake there. So let's make it shorter, and let's make this wider. See if our jack stud comes back. Yeah. So I haven't quite figured out how to calculate this. It should be simple, but I can't get it to work no matter what I do. So if somebody knows how to calculate how many should be in between here and here, you can feel free to comment. I have a feeling it does something to do with modulus. So at any rate, so that's how you see how I position the height of this header using the sketcher, using two values from the sketcher. Let's see. So I think that's enough from the sketcher. I do want to show you how I did this. I know I've done this in another video, but I don't think I showed you in the framing series. So let's look at that next. So how I put in this name. So before I put in the name, I want to show you how I calculate the number of cripple studs in the array, even though I don't think I did it right, and I still need to figure it out, but I got tired of thinking about it. So this uses the sketcher constraint as well. So if you go into the f of x on the number x, so that's my axis in my array is going x this way. If I go to there, see, I tried to just chop off the remainder so it wouldn't round, and I couldn't find modulus in the expression documentation. I just got tired of looking at it. So basically what I did was I got the value of the rough width. I added this to kind of cancel out the rounding, and then I just divided it by 16 inches so I could count how many. But you are dealing with, this is at 0 inches, and then you have, so it's what's in between and inclusive of both ends. But I'm sure I'll figure that out eventually. So let's see what happens when we start changing the rough opening width. So as I increase this, you'll see that it recalculates, and this one I didn't do as well, so just ignore that. Like I always say, I like math, but I'm not good at it. So let's change this all the way up to like really big. So you see how it keeps it spaces and adds cripples as you get into that value. As you approach another 16-inch gap. Oops, went the wrong way. And of course you could just enter a value in there specifically. So the next thing I'd like to do is, or the next thing I'd like to add to this, among some other things, is swap out the header based upon the span. So when you get over 4 inches, this is supposed to go up to an 8 inch or 10 inch or something. Or I'm sorry, when you get to 4 feet, this is supposed to get thicker. When you get to 6 feet, 8 feet, or whatever, I don't know the rules, but as this span gets longer, this is supposed to get thicker. So I'd like to add that at some point. But I think I have to do that in code. I don't think I can do that right in the expression. So that's, I'm not sure how to do that yet. So let's look at the next thing, which is how to do this. Now this doesn't have to do with the sketcher. Make sure you stay tuned to the end because I'll show you how to attach this directly to the sketch, which is kind of cool. So this rough height is simply a dimension. Now the interesting thing about this is you could actually, or did I? Oh, I did. So I put the start of this as a sketcher connection. I'm glad. And you see that it's a sketch constraint. And this, like I said before, this could also be rough opening. So let's just change that so it follows through. That way when I post it, it'll be consistent. So you see that the Z height of this starts at the sill height. And the reason you can do that, I think, is because this is turned on the origin is not in the best place. Yeah. So the origin is, I'm sorry. So its length, I'm looking at the dimension, not the sill. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. So we're looking at the sill height dimension. That's this right here. So this is just a label, basically, to show us what's what. And its starting position is at 0, but its end goes, so its Z end is right there. And that's what I was just showing you is tied to the sketcher. Oh, it didn't save. That's okay. So the way I get it to say 2 feet 4 inches and the word sill, which I think is pretty neat, that you can do this, is if you go into view here and you go down and you go to override. If you put $dim, that's the dimension, and then you just put whatever text you want. So I can say sill plate, and you see it just adds it there, but we'll just leave it at sill. So that's a handy thing to dress up your drawings if you like. I would love it if you could just click these and change them directly in there, like a property box popped up, and maybe if I get good at coding, I'll add that. So the final thing I want to show you is how to set this sill plate as an attachment to the sketch and how you can avoid all the formulas altogether. So this is actually a very simple process. Let me revert what I have there already. I think so if I go to map mode, so this is how to get rid of it. I'm going to get rid of this mapping right here. I'm going to hit deactivated. Okay, so now it's not mapped, and you can see it changed position. So let's significantly change its position, like this, and now let's map it. So to map it, I'm going to hide everything else, or I'm going to hide some of the stuff that's close to it, so it's just really discernible that what's happening. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to have the item selected, and you got to be at part workbench, and you have to select this from the menu. It's not available by default on the toolbar. Is you're going to select attachment. You'll know you're attaching it because this goes invisible, and you know you're selecting something. So the first thing I'm selecting is what I want to attach it to. So I'm just going to select this vertex right here, and then I'm going to select how I'm going to attach it. I'm going to select translate origin, and you see that it's moved down to that vertex, but it looks like it's a little bit off, right? Okay, because the next thing is that we're going to set, and I guess it got left here somehow. I'm going to set that to 0. So it didn't recalculate right away. Let's do apply. Click OK. See if it recalcs. See if I can force a recalc. All right. Anyway, let's set the attachment by hand here. And so, it's saved. Let's see what happened here. Let's do a discard. Let's try it in 0. Hit enter. All right. So now we got rid of it. So let's set this again. So we're going to go to translate, and I'm going to move this down in Z by 1.5 inches. So now that accommodates for the fact of the thickness of the board. And I could simply rotate this board, But one of the things I set up to make this a whole lot easier, and I think I probably should have told you this at the end, is I tried to put all the origins in the same spot. So all the vertical pieces, the origins is in the back, like right there. And let's see what I did for the horizontals. I can't quite remember. I might have not been consistent, but I hope to make sure they are for the, yeah, so it's the bottom front for all the horizontals. So that's my video for today. I hope you like it. I'm going to be continuing this series. I think the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I did a sketch for a rafter calculator, and I kind of enjoyed that. It makes it really easy to draw, to change rafters by pitch, by rise, and by length. So make sure you tune in next week for that one, and make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit like so I can grow the channel and maybe make a living off this. It's a lot of fun, and I enjoy it. Oh, I'm sorry, I still need to show you the spreadsheet. Almost forgot. So before I leave, let me show you the spreadsheet. So what I have here is, let me put this into window view. And this is an important thing about the spreadsheet, is I have two types. I have a report one here and an input. And the reason why is if you have the inputs in with the reports, the reporting values, you're going to, you're going to get circular references all the time. So, make sure you separate them out. So you'll need two spreadsheets. And the other thing is you want to name them first and save the whole document before you use them. FreeCAD does not like it if you name them afterwards. So let me show you a couple of things. First, let me show you how, I got a reporting value. So this value corresponds with the sill. So if I change it here, you'll see that it'll change in the spreadsheet as well. So you see that went from 28 to 29. So the next thing, I'll replicate that right next to it, and I'll show you how to add an alias as well, so you can reference these. So this alias is, let's look at it. This alias is sill. So actually, if I did sill here, I could do equals sill. And you can do that anywhere in the document. Now it's set to format millimeters here. So I could even do that. I could do the sill height anywhere that you have the blue f of x. So now let me show you how you get that in the spreadsheet. All you have to do is you hit equals and start typing. So I know that the sill height is in my rough opening, sketch over here. So I'll just start typing rough opening, and you see it's there. And now if I type constraint like before, you see sill height is one of those constraints. So I can hit enter, and my sill height is put in. To set the units, I'm just going to go into properties, and I'll do display unit, and I'm going to do inches right like that. You might be able to do feet and inches. I haven't figured that out yet. You can't do it in a full column. It doesn't apply. You can only do a cell at a time. You might be able to do a range. I haven't done that. But that's how you set it. To set the alias, you do properties and you go to alias, or if you're in the spreadsheet workbench, you hit this little tag doohickey here and type in some name. I'm not going to type in. So now these, if you go over to your spreadsheet, are available as a property. So they're easy to look up. So you see they're the only properties of the spreadsheet. So this might be even better way to do it than using a sketch as a driver. You could drive all the way from a spreadsheet. Now let me show you the opposite now. So I put the wall height in as a value here. So let's save everything. So if I change this, say let's make it 9 feet, you'll see my whole wall goes up and everything adjusts with it. So where does that happen? So this is just simply a value. So I just typed in, I keep looking up here for it. So I typed in 9 feet, and you saw me do that. And then I set the alias to this. Let's see, let's just hit the alias tag here, is wall height. So you see that value is listed in your inputs as wall height. So you can use this variable, let's call it a global variable for argument's sake, as wall height, and then you can use it wherever. The only place I used it is in the king stud, and yeah, I use it in the king stud, and oh no, I'm sorry. So I took the wall height and I went over to that's right in front of my face. So I did wall height minus 4.5, which is 2 top plates and bottom plate. So you see it's 103.5. This isn't tied. Sorry, I'll have to do that. So if I go over to the king stud, now I can see inputs.klength, which is what we see right here. So that's how you use a spreadsheet as an input, but make sure you keep these separate or you're going to go nuts. You'll get constant circular references, and the spreadsheet will just show you that it shows up as needing calculated, and you won't calculate no matter what. So, you know, keep anything coming from your drawing or model to the spreadsheet in one, and anything going to it in another. So that's it for now. I won't repeat the whole subscribe line, but I will tell you have a great day. And by the way, thanks for watching my videos. I'm really starting to enjoy this a lot, and really starting to enjoy the sense of community that it's starting to grow, and I hope to grow that even more. So